Hi, this is MJ Gilbert, Director of Field Instruction, and welcome to this hopefully helpful little video about beginning navigation of the Intern Placement Tracking Program, otherwise known as IPT, for the University of Minnesota School of Social Work. If you are a newly admitted student or are exploring doing a field placement for the first time, you should have gotten login information to access the IPT from Rosetta Cheers. I am going to log in for the first time, pretending that I am a new student. So I am going to use the default username that was sent to me in the email I received from Rosetta Cheers. Note that the organization ID is UMNSW. So this is the default username I was sent, and the default password is IPT. So I've typed that in. Let's forget about that. It's going to ask me to see it. It wants me to be me, but I'm not going to be me. I'm going to be a new student whose name is Tina Fey. You can use any login name and password that you want to, as long as you will remember it. But for the purposes of this very entertaining video, I am going to make my login name Tina Fey, and I'm going to make my new password Tina. It's not a very secure password, but it'll do for now. And okay, so welcome to the home page of the Intern Placement Tracking Program. This is what's called the bulletin board, and you will see a number of announcements that may or may not be relevant to you. You will see a copy of the student handbook. There will be a copy later on of the field manual, which contains all kinds of very important details about field that you will want to see. But for now, let's take a look at the agency detail, and there I am. That's me. And I will ask you to enter in all this information for yourself, and we'll come back to what all this means a little bit later. But let's go back to the home page just so that you remember where it is. So right now, Tina is looking for field placements for summer block 2016. If you're watching this, you are not looking for a field placement for summer of 2016 in all likelihood, but we can use this as a model. So the first thing that I'm going to do in preparation for looking for a field placement is that I want to look at the agency availability list. And that will be posted here. It is also available from the School of Social Work website. So this is actually a link to that, and here is the agency availability list for summer 2016. The availability list for fall/spring 2016-17 will be much longer than this list. But here's a list of choices, and here's a little chart that shows me what kind of students they take. If this is my first year and I'm a full program student, I only want to look at this column because I'm doing a foundation field placement and my concentration is irrelevant to that, or practically irrelevant to that. If I'm advanced standing or a second year student, I'm looking for a concentration field placement, and then my concentration becomes quite relevant. So for instance, if I'm a concentration student, advanced standing or second year, and I'm a clinical mental health student, I only want to look at agencies that are checked off in this column. Likewise, if I'm community practice, family and children, or health, disability, and aging. But for now, let's say that Tina is a foundation student, so I only want to look at agencies that have a number here. What does this number mean? This is the number of potential openings that this particular agency has. So let's say that I'm a foundation student, and how the heck do I even decide where I want to submit resumes and materials and do that interviewing and contact these people? Because here's the contact information for who I would reach out to. Well, it's a good question. Let's go back to the home page, and I'm going to go to this tab here, which is called Agency List. And here, I can do it alphabetically, or I can see the whole thing at once. You will see a very, very, very long list of agencies. A much longer list than what you saw when you looked at this. The reason for that is that when you see this agency list, this is the list of every agency that we currently have a working relationship with. And not all of these agencies are offering internships for a given internship period. For instance, for summer, a lot of agencies don't offer summer internships because they want somebody there not for 40 hours a week for 12 or 13 or 14 weeks, but for that more like 15 to 20 hours a week through an entire school year, because they want somebody there longitudinally. So that's why you will see agencies listed here that aren't listed on the availability list. The availability list for fall spring 2016, just for example, will be available sometime in late March. So let me look at an agency that's open as a concentration field placement. Let's just choose one. Let's choose North Memorial Hospital Palliative Care. What's that all about, I wonder? Well, here's how we find out. We go back to the agency list and we go down to N, North Memorial Hospital Palliative Care, and that will pull up this document, which is called the agency description. The agency description will give you, hopefully, the information that you need in order to decide, is this an agency that I want to do an interview with or not? You'll get contact information. You'll find out whether or not this particular agency is IBH eligible, and this one is not, or is available to students who have a Kaplan Traumatic Brain Injury Fellowship, and this one is not. And then you'll get some identifying information, whether or not they accept interviews by Skype or by phone. They have told us that that is not something that they want to do. But I'm also looking at this one and seeing that it's listed as only offering concentration field placements. Now that might have been a mistake in the list, but either way, as a foundation student, I'm going to look at this and see, no foundation openings, summer openings. One thing I might do in this situation is call MJ and say, hey, there was a mistake on the list, which happens. But the other thing I'm going to do is not look at that agency because they're not offering an internship that is appropriate for me. So I'm going to look somewhere else. Let's look at Arrive Ministries. I'm going to go back to the agency list and I'm going to look at Arrive Ministries. So I think it was actually helpful that we looked at the agency description for a site that I, Tina Fey, foundation student, am not eligible for, because that is really going to ground me. So now here I am at Arrive Ministries, and I've got all that information. This agency is open to having Skype interviews and phone interviews, and they do offer a foundation field placement for the summer, as well as for the fall and the spring, for which reason I can ignore this. What is this, though? If I were a concentration student, this is where the agency is telling me what combinations of concentration and second anchor they're interested in interviewing with. Now, as you may know from the program, all of you will choose a concentration, but you will also have to take the anchor course for one of the other 3 concentrations, and that's why there's all these confusing choices. So if I'm Tina, right now I'm a foundation student, so this isn't important, but for my next year's field placement, let's say I'm going to be a community mental health concentration student with a second anchor in family and children. I would be looking for an agency that had a check mark right there. But I'm not. I'm Tina Fey, foundation student, so let's move forward. So here is some important information that I need in order to make a decision about whether or not this is an agency I want to interview at. What types of social work would I be doing if I were at this place? Well, here's where I will find the answer to that question. Here's a brief description of the agency. They do refugee resettlement. I, Tina Fey, foundation student, am interested in refugee resettlement. It's an area I've never worked in before. It sounds like it might be an opportunity for me to explore a lot of different kinds of practice. Sounds good. What would I be doing? I'd be providing direct case management through core services delivery to newly arrived refugees and their families. I've never done that before. Maybe I should try it. How does the agency's work advance social and economic justice? We're social workers. Everything we do, from the therapy room to the courthouse to the Capitol to the street, should have something to do with social and economic justice. So here is how Arrive Ministries conceptualizes that. What knowledge, skills, values, and other opportunities are available to students? What might I learn here? Direct care case management. Sounds really interesting. Interacting across cultures, working with interpreters, coordinating with numerous governments and social services offices. Wow, that sounds interesting to me. Me, Tina Fey, foundation student. Now here's a place where, as I look down, first of all I see that this is not a child welfare eligible placement, so I'm going to ignore that. Describe the basic skills, knowledge, or prerequisites a student should bring to the placement. And here you will see that the prerequisites are stated basically by way of interest. They also want to know that I've got some basic computer proficiency skills. If I have a second language, that is really desirable. But it's not saying that I can't apply there if I don't have that. But there are some agencies that will have actual prerequisites. This is more common in a concentration placement than it is in a foundation placement. But a concentration placement might want you to have a working knowledge of the DSM or a number of years of social service experience. So don't get too intimidated by these prerequisites, because in this case, most of the prerequisite has to do with some basic computer skill and some interest in the area. Then there is, what's the supervision going to look like if I work here? Now, it so happens that this is an agency where the direct supervision is going to be provided by somebody who does not have an MSW. They have an MA in Human Rights Studies and is the Director of Refugee Arrival Services. Sounds really great. But we know that the MSW program requires that there also be a supervisor who has an MSW and a license and 2 years of experience. So at this agency, that person is going to be Tanya Cook. So this just kind of describes how supervision goes. And here's some other things that I might need to know in order to decide whether or not this is a place where I am going to interview. Is there an option for evening hours? Maybe. Is the option for weekend hours? No. Even though it says maybe here for evening hours, I would not plan on being able to do all of my hours at this or any agency in the evening, because it is very commonly not the case that programming happens or that supervision is available. And we want students to be in field placements when the action's actually happening. Is this placement paid? No. Oh well. Will the student need to have a car? Yes, they'll need to have a car. Is mileage reimbursed? Yes. Is there a private space for supervision? Yes. Do they require a criminal background check? Yes. And here are amongst some racial and ethnic groups that students at this field placement might commonly be coming in contact with. Same thing with respect to other areas of that you may be working across difference with. They do have a policy in place to deal with sexual harassment and racial harassment, and there's a link to an agency website. So that's how I learn about an agency. So then what I might do is, let's say that I do want to add this agency to my preferences. Because of timing, you will not see a link right here that allows me to add this to my preferences, but you will see a little icon right here that says Add Preference. And if I add that and then look back at my student detail, I will see that it would have added. As it happens, I have already added 2 agencies, Mental Health Resources and Minnesota AIDS Project, and I will be able to move these around. Again, it's because of timing, because the period in which summer students can make these changes has closed down. I can no longer make those changes, but you will see that there's options to delete choices or to move choices up or down on your agency preferences. And once those are complete, there will be a deadline after which you can't change them. Obviously, as I'm creating this video, that deadline for summer 2016 has passed, which is why I no longer have those options. So I will let's say that I made that choice. I would save it, and that's pretty much what you need to know for now. There will be more later. For instance, right now you will see my forms, but this is all for another time and another date. The reason I'm showing this to you now is so that you know that all the field documents, everything related to field that you will have to do, is completed on the IPT website. We are a paperless system. It all happens right here. Everybody has their own login, but this stuff can wait until the autumn, when you already have your field placement and it's ready to start working on documentation. In the meantime, I hope that this has been helpful to you in getting ready to start a search for a field placement, and stay tuned for more information. Thank you.